The wind blew hard across the dry land outside the city gates. Dust rose like ghosts from the cracked earth and danced around the tall metal pole that stood alone in the desert. At the top of that pole, tied by old chains, hung a figure, silent, unmoving, wrapped in tattered cloth. No one remembered her name. To most people, she was just another part of the wall now. A scarecrow, a warning. A piece of history no one talked about. Some said she was a monster who tried to destroy Earth. Others believed she was a spy. Kids made up stories about how she could come alive at night and eat dreams. But Jarek didn't believe those tales. He was 17, short for his age, with dusty boots and eyes that saw more than they should. Every day he passed under that pole on his way out of the city, heading into the wastelands to scavenge for parts, food, anything useful. And every day he looked up. She had long, dark skin covered in fine silver lines that glowed faintly when the sun hit them right. Her head hung low, hair hanging down like ropes of black fire. She wore what might have once been armor, now torn and rusted. Her wrists were chained tight and her chest barely moved, if it moved at all. Jarek always wondered if she was still alive. Most people ignored her. They called her a relic, a war trophy. Some even spat on the ground when they walked past. But not Jarek. He felt something strange whenever he looked at her, like she was waiting, like she knew someone would come one day. One evening, as the red sun dipped behind the broken towers, Jarek came back from the ruins with a bag full of scrap. He paused at the gate, looking up at the silent figure, and this time, he saw something move. Her fingers twitched. Jarek froze. His heart thumped like a hammer in his chest. He blinked, thinking it was the wind or his eyes playing tricks. But then, he saw it again. Her eyelids fluttered. Jarek dropped his bag. Metal pieces clattered to the ground, but he didn't care. He stared up at her, mouth open. "She's alive," he whispered. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay on his thin mat in the corner of his small room, staring at the ceiling. Thoughts raced through his head. If she was alive, why hadn't anyone noticed before? Why had no one helped her? He knew the stories. Everyone did. The War of the Stars, the Great Betrayal, the alien invasion that never really happened. But his. Dad used to tell him different things late at night, things you weren't supposed to say out loud. She wasn't here to fight, Dad had once said. She was here to talk. Then the government shut him up. That was years ago. Now Dad was gone and Jarek was alone. The next morning, Jarek got up early. He packed a small satchel, water, some dried meat, a multi-tool, and a rope he had found in an old garage. He slipped out of the city without being seen and stood again at the base of the pole. Up close, she looked worse. Her skin was dry, cracked in places. Her breaths were shallow like a whisper trapped in stone. She was alive, but barely. "Can you hear me?" he asked softly. There was no answer. He threw the rope over the top bar and pulled himself up. Each step higher made his hands shake. Halfway up, the wind almost knocked him off, but he held tight. Finally, he reached her face. Her eyes opened. Not fully, just enough. Her voice was dust and silence. "I came in peace." Jarek nearly fell. "You're speaking," he stammered. Her lips curled slightly like she was trying to smile. "Peace," she whispered again. Jarek looked into her eyes. They were deep like stars hidden behind clouds. Not evil, not dangerous, just tired. "I'm going to get you down," he said. She didn't respond. Her head dropped again, eyes closed. Jarek climbed down quickly and ran back inside the city. He needed tools. He needed help. He needed answers, because for 20 years, the world thought she was dead. But she wasn't. She had been waiting. Jarek didn't sleep that night. He sat by his small fire, staring at the tools he had gathered. Rope, a cutting blade, some old wires, and a broken translator chip he'd found in a junk pile months ago. It was cracked, but maybe it still worked. He looked up at the stars and thought about what she had said. "I came in peace." The next morning, before the sun rose, Jarek slipped out of the city again. The streets were quiet. the guards half asleep. No one noticed him go. He ran across the dry ground to the base of the pole where Vera hung. She was still there. Still breathing. Barely. Jarek tied the rope around the pole and began to climb. His hands hurt from the rough metal, but he kept going. When he reached her face, he gently placed the broken translator chip near her ear. "Can you understand me now?" he asked. There was silence. Then very softly she spoke. "Yes." Her voice was weak, but clear. Jarek felt a chill run through him. This wasn't just a statue, not a ghost. She was real. "Why are you here?" he asked. "I came to talk," she said. "Not to fight." But they did not listen. Jarek looked down at the city behind him. For years, everyone had been told the aliens attacked first, that they came with ships and weapons and fire, that Earth barely survived. But what if that wasn't true? Vera's eyes blinked slowly. "They hung me 20 cycles ago." Jarek swallowed hard. 20 years. She had been left like this for 2 whole lifetimes. "They wanted others to see," she whispered. "To fear us." Jarek's stomach twisted. "I'm getting you down," he said firmly. She didn't argue. He climbed back down and pulled out the cutting tool. He looked up at the chains around her wrists. They were thick, old, and covered in dust. But they were also connected to something else, small black boxes built into the pole. Tech.alien tech. Jarek frowned. He touched one of the boxes. It was warm, alive. He realized something. She hadn't survived 20 years because of luck. She had survived because this machine was keeping her alive. He tapped the box with his knife. A soft blue light flickered inside. There was power here. Old but working. He needed help. That night he went to someone he trusted, someone who knew machines better than anyone else in the city, old Mara. She lived outside the main blocks, in a scrap house made of broken walls and rusted metal. She had once been an engineer before the war, before everything changed. Jarek knocked on her door. "What do you want, boy?" she growled. "I need your help," he said. Mara looked at him, then followed him back to the gate. She didn't ask questions until they stood under the silent figure of Vera. "Well," Mara said, looking up, "that's new." "She's alive," Jarek said. Mara stepped closer. She touched the alien tech on the pole and raised an eyebrow. "This isn't ours," she muttered. "It's hers, and it's still running?" "She said she came in peace," Jarek said. "But we hung her anyway." Mara was quiet for a long time, then she nodded. "We can get her down," she said. "But carefully. If we break this wrong, we might kill her." Jarek felt hope rise in his chest. Together they worked through the night. Mara used old tools and bits of wire to shut down the alien device slowly. The blue lights blinked off, one by one. Finally, the chains loosened. With great care, they lowered Vera from the pole. She landed softly on the sand, knees giving out beneath her. She gasped, like she hadn't taken a full breath in years. Jarek helped her sit up. She looked at him, eyes filled with something he couldn't name. "You remembered," she said. Jarek smiled. "I always watched." Mara looked between them and sighed. "Well," she said, "looks like we've got ourselves a story." And so under the stars a forgotten truth began to wake. One girl, one alien, and one lie the world had believed for too long. Vera sat in the shadows of an old bunker, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like rust and time. Her body was weak, her voice still soft like wind through broken glass, but her eyes were sharp. Jarek watched her carefully. So did Mara. They had brought her here after cutting her down, far from the city, hidden among ruins no one else cared about. If the guards found her, there would be trouble. Big trouble. But Vera didn't seem afraid. She looked at Jarek and said, "You want to know why I came?" Jarek nodded. "Yes. I was not alone," she said. "I was part of a team. A peace team." Mara leaned forward. "Peace?" Vera nodded slowly. "We sent signals, messages. We wanted to talk, to share knowledge, to help each other grow. Then what happened? Jarek asked. Vera's eyes darkened. Your people thought we were coming to attack. That's what they told us, Mara muttered, that you dropped bombs first. No, Vera said firmly. We never fired a shot. Jarek felt something twist in his chest. He remembered the stories, how aliens had come with fire and death, how Earth barely survived. But now, sitting across from Vera, he wasn't sure what to believe. We landed near your northern sea, she said. 5 of us, no weapons, just words. But your soldiers came fast, they surrounded us, they took me. Mara frowned. What happened to the others? They died, Vera whispered. I don't know if they were killed, or if they left, when I didn't return. Silence filled the room. Jarek looked at Mara. She looked back, face tight with thought. Then Vera reached into her torn armor and pulled out a small black box. It was cracked, covered in dust, but it still glowed faintly. This, she said, is all that is left. Jarek took it gently. It was warm in his hands. What is it? He asked. A memory drive, Mara said, eyes wide. It could hold logs, records, proof. Vera nodded. If you can read it, you will see the truth. Mara got up quickly. Let's get this working. The next few hours were filled with sparks, wires, and quiet hope. Mara connected the alien drive to an old human computer, a dusty machine built into the wall of the bunker. She tapped buttons, adjusted cables, and muttered under her breath. Finally, the screen flickered. Words appeared. Then images, a ship landing softly on sand, figures stepping out, tall, calm, glowing eyes like Vera's, and then humans in heavy armor pointing guns. Jarek's breath caught. He saw a woman, maybe Vera, raise her hands. She spoke in a language no one understood, but her meaning was clear. We come in peace. Then the screen showed soldiers shouting. Orders being given. One soldier raised his weapon. No, Jarek whispered. The video cut to darkness. Mara stopped the playback. She looked at Jarek. He looked at her, then at Vera. So it's true, Jarek said. We started it. Vera closed her eyes. You were scared. Your leaders made you fear us. But why hang you? Mara asked. To send a message, Vera said. To stop others from coming. And it worked, Mara said quietly. No one ever heard from your kind again. Jarek stared at the screen. His whole life he had believed one story. Now he held another. A story where humans weren't the victims, where aliens weren't monsters, where the war began with a lie. He looked at Vera. We have to tell everyone, he said. Mara shook her head. You'll be called a traitor. Or, worse, Jarek stood. Then we make them listen. Vera looked up at him. Her lips curled slightly. You are brave, she said. Jarek smiled. I just want to know the truth. Outside the wind blew again. But now something had changed. Not just the past, but the future. The screen flickered with old images, broken clips of a time long buried. Jarek watched as Vera's people stepped out of their ship, hands raised. They were tall, calm, and glowing softly under the morning sun. Their suits shimmered like water in light. No weapons, no threats. Just peace. Then came the soldiers, boots on sand, helmets, guns aimed. One man stepped forward, older, with sharp eyes and a voice that echoed even through the damaged audio. This is Earth, he said. You are not welcome. Vera closed her eyes. She remembered that moment well. Mara leaned closer to the screen. That was General Rourke, she muttered. He led the first alien war effort. A national hero. Jarek looked at her. Hero? Mara nodded slowly. At least that's what they told us. Back on the screen, Vera's younger self tried again. She stepped forward, speaking in her language, then switched to broken human speech. We come in peace. The soldier didn't lower his weapon. Instead, he turned to his team. Signal command, he ordered. We have contact. Prepare for attack. No, Jarek shouted, even though he knew it wouldn't change anything. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Vera opened her eyes. They never gave us a chance, she whispered. Mara sat back. So the war started over this? Over fear? Vera nodded. Your leaders saw us as a threat before we even spoke. Jarek paced. But why? Why assume the worst? Mara answered quietly. Because it's easier to fight something you don't understand. Vera looked at them both. After I was taken, my people waited. We thought maybe your kind just needed time. But then came the strikes. She swallowed hard. Cities burned. Ships fell from the sky. And still we did not fight back. Jarek stared. You had weapons. You could have defended yourselves. Vera shook her head. We believed in dialogue, not destruction. Mara frowned. But if you didn't fight, how did the war last? So long? Vera's voice grew cold. Because your side kept coming, and some among us finally decided peace was a weakness. Jarek's stomach dropped. They fought back, she said. Not to win, only to survive. Mara rubbed her temples. This changes everything. Jarek clenched his fists. Why wasn't this ever shown to people? This proves we were wrong. Mara sighed. Because the truth doesn't matter when power is at stake. Vera stood, slowly, leaning on the wall. Your leaders built a lie. They painted us as monsters so they could control your fear. And fear makes people obey. Jarek felt anger rise inside him. All his life, he'd been taught that humans were brave. That they had saved Earth from an alien invasion. But now he knew. They had attacked first, and they had lied about it. I have to show this, Jarek said. Everyone needs to see it. Mara shook her head. You think the city will just believe you? You think they'll thank you? They should, Jarek said. They won't, Mara warned. People don't like being told they've lived. A lie. Vera stepped forward. But lies do not last forever. Jarek looked at her. She was weak, yes, but strong in other ways. In ways that mattered. You're right, he said. We start small. We tell one person, then another. Until the truth spreads. Mara crossed her arms. That's dangerous talk, kid. I know, Jarek said, but someone has to do it. Outside, the wind howled through the ruins. Inside, a new fire had begun. It wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. But it was real. The truth had been buried for 20 years. Now it was waking up. The next morning, he took the memory drive and copied its contents onto an old data chip he had found in Mara's junk pile. It wasn't perfect, but it worked well enough. He knew if he showed this to just one person, they might think it was fake. But if he showed it to many, doubt would begin to grow. He started with his friends. First, Lena. She worked in the city archive and had always been curious about the war. Then Tico, a mechanic who never trusted the government. And finally, Nessa, a schoolteacher who told stories of the past to kids like him. They met at night, deep in the ruins outside the city walls. Jarek placed the chip into a small projector. The screen flickered, and then came the video. Vera, stepping out of her ship, hands raised, the soldiers pointing guns, General Rourke declaring them unwelcome. Silence followed. Lena was the first to speak. This can't be real. It is, Jarek said. I saw her. I helped her down from the pole. Tico looked shaken. So we started it? Jarek nodded. We were taught we were defending Earth. But we weren't. We attacked first. Nessa stared at the ground. If this gets out, everything people believe will fall apart. That's the point, Jarek said. We deserve the truth. They agreed to help spread the message, quietly at first. They made copies of the video. Some slipped them into books in the library. Others played them on hidden speakers in public places. People began to talk. At first, only whispers. Then questions. Why have we never seen this before? Who decided what we learned? Was the war really necessary? Soon, posters appeared on walls. Drawings of Vera with her hands up. Words like, "She came in peace and we were wrong." The city leaders noticed, and they did not like it. By the end of the week, guards were searching homes. Anyone caught with the video was taken away for questioning. One man was arrested simply for asking a teacher why the story they were told didn't match what he had seen. Still, the truth kept spreading. Jarek watched as more people began to question. He saw it in their eyes, the slow realization that maybe, just maybe, they had believed a lie for too long. One night, he stood with Mara near the edge of the city. "They're going to come after you," she warned. "I know," Jarek said. Mara looked at him carefully. "You could run, hide, stay safe." Jarek shook his head. "If I run, nothing changes." Mara sighed. "You're either brave or stupid." "Maybe both," he said with a tired smile. That same night he returned to the ruins where Vera was hiding. She was stronger now. Her skin had healed some. She walked without pain, and when she spoke, her voice carried weight. "You are making." "Waves," she said. Jarek sat beside her. "It feels like a storm is coming." Vera looked at the stars above. "Storms clear the air. They make way for new skies." Jarek frowned. "What if they hurt people?" "They often do," she admitted. "But sometimes they are needed." He looked at her. "Did your people ever face something like this?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, long ago. We had to decide who we wanted to be, warriors or diplomats. We chose peace, not because it was easy, because it was right." Jarek felt a lump in his throat. "Do you think we can choose that too?" Vera turned to him. "You already have." Outside, the wind blew again. Inside, something new was growing. Not fear, not silence. Hope. The city square was packed. People stood shoulder to shoulder, some with fear in their eyes, others with anger. Guards lined the edges, hands resting on weapons. A wooden stage had been built in the center, and at its heart stood a single chair. Jarek sat in it. His wrists were bound with metal cuffs. His face was bruised from the night before when they had dragged him from his home. But he held his head high. He had known this would happen. He just hadn't expected it to come so fast. Behind him, Vera stood tall, her silver lines glowing faintly in the morning light. She wasn't tied up. She wasn't afraid. And though she looked weak compared to the soldiers around her, she carried something stronger than any weapon. Truth. A man in a dark coat stepped forward. Council leader Darnell. He was one of the most powerful people in the city. "This trial," he announced, "is to determine if Jarek Lorne has committed treason against Earth." A murmur spread through the crowd. Treason, not lying, not spreading false stories. Treason. Darnell pointed at Jarek. "This boy has shared illegal material. He has supported an enemy of our world. He has tried to rewrite history." Another man stepped up. General Kren, a war hero who had fought in the last battles of the Alien War. "He's dangerous," the general said. "If we let this lie spread, people will lose faith in what we've built." Mara stood near the front of the crowd. She clenched her fists. She wanted to shout, but she knew that wouldn't help. Vera stepped forward. "I am not your enemy," she said, voice calm but clear. General Kren turned to her. "You're an alien. That makes you enough of a threat." "No," Vera said. "It makes me different, not dangerous." Darnell frowned. "We have lived in peace because of the choices made during the war. We protected our people." "By lying to them?" Vera asked. There was silence. Then she raised her hand and a small device lit up in her palm. It was connected to the old memory drive. It was broadcasting across the city. Everyone with a speaker, a screen, or a headset heard it. The video played. Again. Vera stepping off the ship, hands raised. General Rourke declaring them unwelcome. Soldiers preparing for attack. And then came the real twist. New footage, hidden files recovered from the broken memory chip, images of meetings, secret talks between Earth leaders. One line stood out. "We cannot allow peaceful contact. It would weaken our control." The crowd gasped. Jarek looked around. He saw shock, disbelief, anger, but also understanding. Darnell turned red. "This is fake." "It's not," Mara shouted from the crowd. "I helped recover it." More voices rose. "Why didn't we see this before? What else have they hidden?" Vera looked at the council leader. "You knew the truth. You chose to keep it buried." Darnell backed away. "This isn't over." Jarek stood. "Yes, it is." The people began to chant. "Truth, truth, truth." The guards didn't know what to do. The leaders looked lost. For the first time, power was slipping from their hands. Vera turned to Jarek. "You did it." "She," said. Jarek shook his head. "We did it." Outside the city walls, the wind blew again. But now it carried something new. Not fear, not lies. Freedom. The city changed after that day. It didn't happen all at once. Old fears don't disappear overnight. But something had been set in motion, like a stone rolling down a hill slowly at first, then faster and faster. People began to talk, not just in secret corners or behind closed doors. They talked in the open. In schools, teachers started showing the truth about what really happened 20 years ago. In marketplaces, parents told their kids the real story of Vera, not as a monster, but as a messenger of peace. Even some soldiers questioned what they had believed for so long. Jarek became a symbol, not of rebellion, not of war, but of truth. He wasn't punished for what he did. The people wouldn't allow it. When the council tried to charge him with treason again, thousands gathered outside the hall, chanting his name. So instead, they gave him a choice: leave the city or help shape its future. He chose the second. With the Mara by his side, Jarek helped rebuild the city's records. He worked with historians, engineers, and even young students who wanted to learn from the past, not repeat it. Vera stayed too. She was offered a place among her people when contact was finally re-established, but she chose to remain on Earth. Not as a prisoner this time, but as an ambassador, a bridge between two worlds. 1 year later, the city looked different. At the main gate, where Vera once hung in silence, there now stood a statue. It showed her standing tall, hands raised, not in surrender but in peace, and beneath it, carved into the stone, "Here hung a friend. We forgot." He remembered. Children played near it. Tourists came to see it. Some still didn't believe the story, but most listened, and many believed. Inside the city hall, a new banner flew, blue and green, human and alien colors woven together. Jarek stood under it, looking out at the crowd gathered below. He was older, now only a little taller but much wiser. Vera walked beside him. "You did more than you know," she said. Jarek smiled. "We did it together." Mara joined them, arms crossed. "You two are going to make me old before my time." "You already are," Jarek teased. She gave him a light shove, laughing. From the sky, a ship landed gently outside the city. It wasn't a warship, it was a diplomatic one. Alien envoys stepped out, dressed in flowing robes of silver and gold. They bowed slightly to the crowd. Vera stepped forward and greeted them in her own language. Then she turned. "This," she said, loud enough for all to hear, "is the beginning of something better." The crowd cheered, not out of fear, not out of hate, but hope. Years passed. Earth made contact with other stars. Peace grew, and in every school, every library, every spaceport, one story was always told: of a boy who saw a forgotten truth, of an alien who waited 20 years to be heard, and of how one act of kindness changed the course of history. Because sometimes the loudest messages come from the quietest places, like a pole outside a city gate, and a girl who refused to stay silent.